Photo Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Grace Costa, a commercial photographer of over 2 decades, a photo-based artist and a photography mentor. This podcast opens up a secret diary about the world of the photography industry. We'll bring you inspiring interviews with industry professionals, as well as stories and tips to help you propel through your photography journey, whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro. Thanks for joining me today. Now let's open the latest diary. Hi friends, welcome back to the Photo Diaries podcast. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm Grace Costa. I'm going to be your host. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to become a better photographer. These tips are designed to help you reach the next increment in your journey to becoming a better photographer who produces thought-provoking work, engaging and technically and emotionally strong photographic work. And maybe even get to the path where you're winning and entering awards. So today I'm going to share everything I know with you, and hopefully it inspires you to take some action and help yourself become a better photographer. So here's a question for you. Do you find yourself looking at other photographers' work and wishing that yours was just as good? Or do you look at their work and think, how did they get so good? I wish I could be that good. I remember thinking these exact things, and I just wanted something to happen overnight where I suddenly became a better photographer. But unfortunately, I had to do the hard yards. I had to do the 1,000 hours, and I had to keep experimenting. The first way to improve yourself is getting your work critiqued. I know many of you photographers don't even consider something like this. And probably the reason is you don't know who to ask. You're scared of what you're going to be told. But to be honest, getting my work critiqued in my early career was the best thing I could have done for myself and for my development. When I was an employed photographer in the government, I had my colleagues, my senior colleagues, that they were men who'd been photographers for decades. And so, of course, I could learn from them. And my boss used to make me narrow down my photo shoot to the 10 best shots, and then he would critique them. He would always pull me up on cropping because I would always include things in the background that added to the mess. They weren't necessary. So he'd always ask me to tighten up my crop. And he taught me so much about cropping because he would stand over my shoulder. We were in Lightroom and he would really say, nope, closer, get closer, crop it like this. And I'd learn a lot from that. He would also pull me up on my backgrounds. So when things would clash from the main subject to the background and it would become distracting, he would pull me up on that as well. And now I notice it in everybody else's work. And I notice that because people don't know about these things, they're making the same mistakes over and over. And that's the benefit of getting your work critiqued, is you'll stop making those same mistakes year after year. And of course, your client doesn't really care because they don't know any better. They're not educated and knowledgeable about imagery and what makes a great image. They just know that themselves, if they're in it, if it's a family photo, wedding, whatever, they're connected to the emotion of the photo. Whereas if you want to be technically good, if you want to have impactful images, if you want your images to be competition worthy, win awards, you need to improve by getting your work critiqued. So how do you do that? Well, you find some people in your networks that can be in your tribe, and you can call on them on a regular basis by sending them possibly 3 images for each shoot. And just asking them honestly, can you give me some honest feedback? I want to start to improve my photography and I need constructive feedback. I still do this today, especially when I'm entering a competition like the National Photographic Portrait Prize or big photography prizes that are out there. I'll call on my friends, usually the same 3 people I call on, and send them the image, say, how can this be improved? What do you think of it? Tell me honestly. And, they might bring something up, or they might say, you know what, there's nothing really needs to change. But if they do, I will change it and then consider myself whether I agree with their critique or with their ideas. So always valuable, even for me. Now that I'm a seasoned pro and I've been doing photography a couple of decades, when it comes to my commercial work, I tend to notice my own mistakes naturally. They're usually the same things, and it's usually the background thing that I mentioned before, but I can see it now. I can see it, I can improve it, and I can be aware that, oh, damn, I should have looked harder. I should have noticed this was in the background. I should have removed that from the scene so that I don't have to retouch it now. Things like that. So it can be simple to get your work critiqued, but I highly recommend it. Be brave, be open to it. Please don't take it personally, because an image is not about you. It's separate from you, even though you created it. And it can be hard to ask for feedback because we are emotionally attached to it. We created it. We have a story around it. I often find my clients have excuses. And when I was in TAFE studying photography, we all made excuses why the image wasn't up to scratch. Oh, but the lighting. Oh, but the day of the week. Oh, but the situation didn't allow for this. Oh, but I didn't have the room, to shoot wider. A, B, C, and D. There was always excuses, but in the end of the day, open yourself up to constructive feedback. And I promise you, if you continue to do this over the years, you will become a better and stronger photographer. Number 2, try something new. A new lens, a new angle, bring a flash this time. Add multiple flashes to your shoot. How about a different modifier, a different angle, a different format, use a different camera? For me, I recently went camping with my family, and I don't usually take a camera camping, but I recently bought this really small mirrorless camera, the Nikon ZFC. And, I don't have to worry about harming it because it's so small and it's not super expensive. And if I leave it in the caravan, it's not a big deal. So I brought it along with me to the campsite, and across from where we were camping was a big family of about 20 people having a big annual party. And there was a redhead young boy there playing games with his cousins. And I looked at him so long, I just kept staring at him basically while he was playing his card games. And I was intrigued by his look, his red hair, his skin, his haircut. And I just thought to myself, I really need to photograph this kid. And worked up the courage to go over there and ask his parents for permission and tell them I would enter it in the National Photographic Portrait Prize and other competitions and all that. I explained all that. But anyway, the point to my story is when I went and photographed him close to the sort of bushland, it was tropical bushland, so it was all green, dark green plantations, and he had bright red hair. The way I photographed him, I did my traditional vertical portraits with shallow depth of field and tried different framing styles, but I purposely turned the camera horizontally. And I hardly ever shoot a centered portrait horizontal above the shoulders. And I did it this time, and I looked for the shadows as well, which I never do. Also, I always look for the light. So there was 2 elements that I had tried for something new. And the reason I think I brought those elements into this portrait of this young boy is because I'd recently come back from a creative holiday in Melbourne where I'd seen heaps of exhibitions. And I was inspired by what I saw over there, and I sort of took snapshots and notes about the new things I'd seen so that I could reference it later on in my work. And I think subliminally, the new way of doing a portrait for me was in my mind, and it came out in this opportunity. And the shot that I've selected for competition is the horizontal one, not the vertical ones that I normally do. And the horizontal one allowed for different framing and different space, different use of negative space, different cropping. And I'm really pleased that I tried something new. Sometimes if you're a bit stuck in a rut with your work, trying a new lens and just setting yourself a limitation of one lens can help you improve your photography. So if you say for the next week or the next month, only use a 50mm lens for everything you shoot, that will teach you so much about your way of working, your way of seeing, and it will change your composition. So I encourage you to try something new like that. Think about something you've wanted to try, whether it's a new modifier, whether it's a flash in a different style. What is it that you've wanted to experiment with? And this year, give yourself the opportunity to do that so that you can level up as a photographer. Number 3, let's talk about looking in new places. Looking at other photographers' work does make you a better photographer. I think I learned how to be a better corporate photographer. It grew for me after seeing a lot of advertising images around me. So over the years, it sort of sunk into my brain how to craft these type of images and how to make them look natural, because subliminally I was studying them with the imagery I was seeing all around me. Not just in magazines or the train station or whatever. There was just images on TV and in the paper and in publications at the doctors. I would just sort of start paying attention. And I think that's how I learned the standard of doing those corporate images. So looking in new places means looking outside the world of photography as well. Yes, you can learn to be a better photographer from others around you who are doing similar photography niche. But have you thought about looking at graphic designers? For me, in my mid-career, I was attending a lot of photography workshops and seminars and conferences. And then I got a bit tired of learning from other photographers and being in the photography world. I was really craving education and visual inspiration from design. So instead of going to the photography conferences, I switched to going to design conferences. And one in particular in Australia was called Semi-Permanent Conference. And it's still around today. And I think I went for probably 3 or 4 years in a row. And at that conference, you're learning and you're seeing from designers who are working with huge brands, and you're seeing designers who are doing fun things with typography and color and different textures and collage and pattern and design. And that really inspired me to think differently and see things differently and bring that into my photography world. And the way it would translate into my photography world would be choosing a color palette that I had seen from other designers, or choosing to bring pattern into an ordinary photographic story, or mixing text with my portraits in post-production, doing Photoshop collage type thing. So I learned a lot from graphic design, and I'm generally interested in graphic design and the design world anyway. So it came naturally for me to learn from that aspect. Also, fashion design is also a passion of mine and an interest. So at my recent trip to Melbourne, I went to the National Gallery of Victoria and visited the Alexander McQueen exhibition. Looking in new places for this fashion design show, I'm seeing how he's using a storyline, and that's something I can bring into my photographic work. he brought stories from his past, from his upbringing, from his heritage. He had a lot of Scottish tartan in his fashion designs because he grew up as his heritage. So he had interest in bullfighting for a moment. So he did a storyline around the Spanish bullfighting and did, headwear that had the bull horns and dresses and attire that sort of came from the matador costume and dress. And seeing how he brought the storyline into his fashion design really inspired me to think about what sort of storylines that I'm attached to from my past history or from something that I'm passionate about that I can bring into my photographic work. Also, looking in new places, how about music videos and movies? What can you learn from them that you can bring into your photographic work? Whether it be storylines, compositions, if you saw in a music video a subject matter that was used, whether it be, animals, and you saw the way animals were used in a recent video clip, maybe you could sort of take from that and put that into your work in the future. But overall, looking in new places outside of photography will help you become a better photographer because you're influenced by more diverse things. Number 4, keep practicing all the time and in all situations. Becoming a master of your craft takes heaps and heaps and heaps of hours. It takes a lot of problem solving. It takes a lot of different experiences during shoots. That's where you build your toolbox, is when you turn up to a shoot or a situation that you've created and you're faced with a different problem because of the environment you're shooting in. And you have to work out how to make something look amazing, but you've only got so much amount of light and so much space in the room to make it happen, yet you've only got a 50mm lens. So it's solving problems in those sticky situations that helps you become a better photographer. And the more you practice, whether it be in your personal work or your commercial work, practicing will improve your photography because you are constantly doing different things. You are changing up different situations and you have to adapt to different ways of working and changing your lenses and changing your focal length and working out how to make light in a really difficult situation, or even how to bring, say you see something really dark and moody, but you see it done with just a kiss of light. How do you create that? Practice. You have to practice with your lights to see how you can create that. You can't just read it in a book. Practicing helps you become a better photographer. Number 5 is to step outside your comfort zone. By stepping outside your zone, you will teach yourself to trust in your ability, but also test your ability at the same time. Being brave with your ideas and, growing your self-confidence. I think when you step out of your comfort zone, whether it be asking somebody for their portrait in the street, something as simple as that will teach you about your own bravery. And it will teach you how you can chase ideas. When you step outside of your comfort zone, you might be doing something like going to a different location that you've never been. Maybe it's a public space that you want to photograph in, but it's outside of your comfort zone. Give yourself a bit of a push. How can you push yourself to do it? I think from my experience, stepping outside my comfort zone has taught me about myself. And when you learn more about yourself, you have the opportunity to become a better photographer because you learn to know what your boundaries are. You learn to know how to push them and when to push your boundaries. And you learn to trust in your own growth and invest in yourself as well, because, you know, you're on this planet to do what you want to do and to follow your passions, and you have a passion for photography for a reason. So investing time, energy, and connection into this passion of yours is worthwhile, and stepping out of your comfort zone, sharing your work with others, getting it critiqued, trying something new, looking in new places, and practicing are all small things you can do over a long period of time to elevate your work and help you become a stronger photographer. Number 6 is workshops and training, professional development, basically. So when I have been an employed photographer, which is most of my career, in my downtime, when I didn't have photo shoots to turn up to, I would head straight to Creative Live. It's an online education platform, probably the biggest in the world, American, invented by Chase Jarvis. And I was just addicted to watching Creative Live. It looked like I was doing work, you know, even though I wasn't. I was just learning. My boss encouraged it a lot. And it was so great because Creative Live has a variety of different workshops, from photography to editing in Photoshop, Lightroom, graphic design, business-related topics, lifestyle topics, art and design, and the list goes on. So Creative Live was a great platform for me to just fill in the gaps in my knowledge while I wasn't doing anything and while I was waiting for the next job to come through. You know, you can look into Creative Live, sign up to their mailing list and become a member so you know when the latest workshops are coming up, and just get into it. Highly recommend. Other trainings you could get into that are online, I know most of you would be using Adobe products, of course. So Adobe has heaps of training out there, and it's so high quality. There's all different topics that will help fill in the gaps in your knowledge, in your photography. And so take a look in Adobe. Also, Udemy. I have not personally done any workshops through Udemy, but you can look up photography ones there, or editing or post-production or design or anything like that that takes your fancy. Look into those ones. But have you considered paid mentoring? Now, that can look different depending on which photographer you work with. But for instance, with me, my clients can just purchase a one-off-one training with me where they can fill in the gaps in their knowledge. So recently I worked with Emily on flash photography. So although she was trained as well, we both studied at the same institute, and she's a qualified photographer, and she learned flash photography in her course because she went straight into running her business and possibly wasn't confident with flash. She just didn't use it with her client work. She just, you know, called herself a natural light photographer and went without flash. But now she's looking to pivot in her business and do more portraiture. She wants to learn how to use flash in indoor situations and in outdoor situations. So she's just purchasing classes individually from me as she requires. And, you know, we're just starting with speedlight work and we'll go from there. But other mentors, you can purchase 3-month working with them or 6-month package. But it's a great way to not have to commit to a full training or a full course, a formal education like that. You can just purchase as you go. And it's, you know, prices really range from $200 upwards, $300, $500, depending who you work with and what state you live in. But consider researching some mentors out there, photography educators. Type that into Google and see what you come up with. I take mentoring sessions as well throughout the year, so you can always get in touch with me as well. But look into that. Next, I have reading books and YouTube if you want to become a better photographer. So head to your local library. I know this sounds a bit random, but the library houses so many books on photography. We have a really great library here. We've got obviously the National Library of Australia, but we also have the Art School Library. So the National School of Art has, there's a lot of old books, and don't be afraid of old books because they have great techniques in there, great information. I don't know if people are still writing books on photography techniques, if there's any new stuff out there, but don't worry, the old stuff is great. It's all traditional, it's all technical. You'll find the information you need if you want to up level in lighting or composition. Look at the basic elements of photography. Look for books like that if you're a beginner and you're struggling with your imagery work. You can also, of course, look at YouTube, see what's out there. There's heaps of lighting training on YouTube, but I find that a lot of people come to me because they don't find learning on YouTube in depth enough, and they don't find that they get to ask the questions because obviously they're just watching an existing video. And going back to mentoring, that's why mentoring can benefit you so much, because you get to ask the educator one-on-one, face-to-face, and customize the class session just for your needs. YouTube can't do that, and books not necessarily can do that. So another benefit of getting mentoring. How about attending live events? So right throughout my career, right from when I studied photography and was employed as a photographer all those years, I was attending conferences. There were so many available back then before the pandemic. Every year I'd go to the Aperture Conference was in Australia. The Refocus Retreat was dedicated for female photographers. It still exists in Victoria. I was a keynote speaker for that one, and I taught a horse photography workshop, a workshop about starting your own exhibition, and I did mentoring program for the Refocus Retreat, and that was sponsored by Nikon. Depth of Field Conference. My friend just sent this to me last week. I'd never heard of it. It's run by B&H Photo. They are an American photography supply store. So I attended that Replay 2-day conference, loved it, so valuable. So sign up to B&H Photo and see if you can get notified about when that one's coming out next year. How about Adobe Max? So cool. It's such a great conference. It covers all the latest technologies in photography and video and multimedia and design. You see all the cool things that are happening, how people are using technology at the moment. So sign up to Adobe Max. And one of my favorites, because I have been a finalist in the Head On Photo Festival. They have photo awards, they have exhibitions, they have trainings, they have presentations, artist talks, and so much more. I was an artist exhibiting with the Head On Festival in, I think it was 2017. And then I was a finalist in the Photo Awards in 2020. So you can get involved in the Head On Festival in so many ways. Sign up, become a member, and follow them and really support them, because they are an international-based festival and you can see works from all around the world that will totally blow your mind, inspire you, and get you on board to doing more photography and leveling up and becoming a better photographer, which is what we're here to do. Next is watching documentaries. I think a lot of photographers wouldn't even consider that nowadays. And I was talking to one of my photography friends the other day and I suggested it to her and she was like, yeah, I never thought about documentaries. Are there some out there? So here is my list of documentaries for you to watch. Firstly, Bill Cunningham, New York. He is a street fashion photographer. You will find it interesting because of his freelance style, the way he approaches people in the street. So fun, so free. That's a good one. Even if you, of course, don't want to be a street photographer or you're not into fashion, you'll just learn about somebody else's passion and how he's made it work for his career. Annie Leibovitz, of course, look her up if you love portrait photography. There's an old one of hers out there, but also you'll find other short little clips on YouTube of her. Abstract on Netflix. That one includes other things other than photography. It's not just photography. I think Platon is featured in there, but there's designers, there's illustrators, there's architects in there. So if you want to get inspired by other art forms, which, you know, I will encourage you to do because it has worked for me, go to Abstract on Netflix. Next is Vivian Mayer. That one is about a very old time photographer back in the black and white film days. I've got the book as well. So Finding Vivian Mayer, I think it's called. I'll have all these links in the show notes for you. War photographer, amazing. That inspired me so much when I watched it many years ago. It was on DVD when I watched it, so I think I watched it 3 times before I returned it to the library. But my friends, please share any documentaries that you've watched in the past that you want to share with me. Send it to me in the DM so I can get on board and watch them, because I'm so sick of just ordinary Netflix, ordinary all those other subscription models, watching random stuff, sick of TV. Look, get into documentaries. It will totally get you fired up to do better work as a photographer. You know, you need to improve yourself. Find the time to, you know, use these strategies I've mentioned, make an effort and dedicate yourself to improving your photography. My friends, I hope this episode gave you some takeaways. Please share them with me over on Instagram. So that's it for today's episode, my friends. Thanks for hanging out, and I will catch you on the next episode. That's it for today's episode. If you found it valuable, I invite you to leave a review so more people can find this podcast, or simply subscribe to be notified when each new episode drops. Until next time, see you later.